When we are young, our level of responsibility is like that of a mustard seed. We have little to no responsibility. As we grow, our parents and our guardians instill in us certain things like respect, knowledge of consequences, and we understand what is right and what is wrong. When we become adults, that is when we realize our purpose. The seeds planted in us that have been nourished begin to grow. And we realize that our purpose gives us a responsibility. A responsibility for me, your responsibility, government's responsibility to its citizens, and more specifically today, big businesses' responsibility to the country in which it operates. Wealthier countries, for a number of years, have done exactly what they thought was the best thing to keep control. These wealthier countries have given handouts and loans to developing countries. Those handouts and loans have been very beneficial in those developing countries. They have given education, they have assisted with health care, and they have been needed. But as many of you know, those loans were not enough. Those loans are not enough. We would need millions of dollars to be sustainable, billions of dollars even, trillions in order to sustain. But we don't have that. All we have is big business. All we have is corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility is the merger of social and environmental changes as part of a business's operation and part of their model. Corporate social responsibility is necessary. It works and it is happening. It happens all over the world. Take, for instance, Mars. Mars is the 6th largest private company in the USA. Now, I love chocolate. I love chocolate. I really, really love chocolate, as many people do. So Mars's critics always wonder, how exactly will Mars be sustainable? So Mars produces things like pet products. Mars produces M&Ms, Snickers, Twix, the works. So they keep asking the question, how is this sustainable? How will Mars be able to keep in line with their cocoa production? Corporate social responsibility. Mars has set up a system whereby they provide farmers with education and means in order for them to be sustainable. So you have farmers in developing countries. Mars goes to those developing countries, and Mars provides those farmers with a setup with non-governmental organizations. So those NGOs advocate for livable wages, they advocate for education in farming practices, and they essentially help Mars at the same time that they're helping those farmers. So corporate social responsibility works worldwide. Let's bring it a little bit closer to home. In South Africa, one of the mandates is that banks require that 2% of their profits actually be invested back into the community. So Standard Bank thought about this in a smart way. Standard Bank took the 2% of their profits, put it in a trust, a growing trust. And so Standard Bank thought creatively. They decided to take money out of that trust and invest it and give it to Black entrepreneurs. While they did that, Standard Bank also set up those individuals with technical assistance coming from different NGOs. So closer to home, we know that this is happening. So why do people not trust that businesses can help in the countries that they operate in? What is it about business that forges this negative idea? The mindset is that businesses are for profit. You start a business to make money. You join a company that's making money. You join a company that grows. So the idea that profits need to be pushed and pushed and pushed is ingrained in us. and it's ingrained in those businesses. So businesses think, why would I care? Why do I have to care? And this is where we have to decide to change our mindset. Let's take one example of pollution. The general idea is that in order to combat pollution, businesses have to spend money to do so. If you have to spend money to do something, that means you're eating into your profit. And if you're eating into your profit, then that idea that we have about businesses churning that profit and making money can never happen. But that is not the case. Because if you take pollution, for example, a business that implements measures to combat emissions testing, harmful emissions, unreliable environment and working conditions, businesses that from the get-go take those initiatives to protect themselves are the ones who make money in the long run. Less emissions means your business is operating at the best level it can. Efficiency. We have to start thinking about this from the get-go for the long term. We have to change our mindset. And businesses have to change their mindset too. So businesses have thought that they have to operate by themselves. And that has been the issue. The most successful corporate social responsibility individuals and mandates and businesses, the most successful ones are the ones who have a shared vision, the ones who see that social change and environmental change can be part of your business model. It can be part of your economic growth. But we have to work together. The businesses can't do it alone. Government is not going to do it by itself. And the NGOs for sure cannot do this by themselves. It has to be a group effort. It has to be a shared vision. And perhaps the issue is with us. Maybe the issue is in the language that we use. When I talk about social justice, environmental change, people don't trust that businesses will do this. Perhaps it's the language. One of my favorite riddles and stories when I was growing up was a Grimm's fairy tale about the magic porridge pot. What you had to do was you needed to tell that porridge pot, boil porridge pot, boil, and it would make the most scrumptious porridge. What you had to do at that point was to say, stop, magic porridge pot, stop, and it would stop. And if you got the words right, it would stop. But if you got the words wrong, it would boil and overflow and continue. So maybe this fable is much like the fable that we have in our heads about business. It's much like the fable we have in our heads about social change and environmental change. Add social justice to the problem and suddenly nobody wants anything to do with it. Talk about social change and environmental change and suddenly we don't have the money for that. But in a developing country, there is no reason that multinational companies come here to make use of resources here without benefiting the country that they operate in. There is no reason that we should not mandate that these countries do something in these countries in which they operate. Passionate clarity, that's what we need. Passionate clarity. Ask yourselves, do you work for companies that invest back into their communities, that care about pollution, that care about social justice change and movements? Ask yourselves, are these the companies that you would like to work for? If you're a high-ranking person in government, ask yourself, have you ever asked these questions of yourself when you wonder why a country so rich in resources is not operating at the same level that other countries are? Do you ask yourself these questions? Do you ask this of your employers? We need to. We need to begin. After all, We are made wise not by the recollection of our past, but by the responsibility of our future. Thank you.